All right, welcome to the Supply Chain Planning Forum. We are still a bit early. We're waiting for people to arrive in this session. So bear with us, just give us another minute or so, and then we'll get started with the event. Thank you. All right, welcome to the Supply Chain Planning Forum organized by the Global Supply Chain Council. My name is Max Henry from the organization. I'm very pleased to again have you joining us from all over the EMEA region. We have people joining us from all over APAC, also Middle East and Europe for this new discussion. If you've joined us before, you know that we've done this discussion already. So this is very much a follow-up to our discussion that we had previously. We expect again that session to last around 55 minutes. So if you're planning to have another meeting at the end of the hour, don't worry, we'll make sure to finish before 5 p.m. Hong Kong, Singapore, and then you can then move on for another meeting or call. We also want to remind you that this is going to be a very interactive session. So if you have any questions, if you have any specific question about what you do when it comes to supply chain planning, go ahead and ask. You can make use of a Q&A button located at the bottom right of your screen, and we will prioritize those questions as much as we can. So you can type your question anytime, and then we'll take them as they come. So today we have some great panelists joining us, and I'd like to first start with introductions. So maybe giving you a chance, each of you, to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, where you are, so people, our audience today can understand who is there for discussion. So maybe we'll get started with you, Lena. Go ahead, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Lena Shao. I'm based in Singapore. Currently, I'm leading S&OP planning and network planning in SETS. SETS is a Singapore company providing food solutions and airport gateway services. A bit of my background, I have more than 10 years of experience in planning in various industries. And I also worked with various functions such as demand supply planning, inventory management, S&OP, etc. It's my pleasure to join this planning forum again. Thanks, Max, for the invitation. I always enjoy this excellent platform to discuss interesting topics related to supply chain planning and also to learn about the best practices from experts. Thank you.
Okay. I think your webcam just went off, so maybe if you can activate your webcam again, Lena. And same thing for Sanjeev. If you can switch on your webcam. Okay, you're back. Sanjeev, if you can also switch on your webcam from your side, that would be great. So let's move on to Ashish. Welcome, Ashish. Go ahead, yeah.
Hi, Max, and thanks for inviting me to this forum. I'm Ashish Kumar, currently based out of India, currently working with Shell lubricant business. I have spent most of my career in supply chain planning, and I had the privilege to work with different geographies in US, in India, and Asia, Singapore. Uh, Related to planning, logistics, procurement is what I have spent most of my career in. I was the sales and operation planning manager for Asia Pacific and then globally. Look forward to work with this. Look forward to learn and contribute to this discussion with all the panelists.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We have Stuart as well joining us. Welcome. Make sure to
Thank you,
unmute.
Max. Hello, everyone. My name's Stuart Harman from Wight, Asia Pacific. We're a business transformation consultancy. I've been a consultant with Wight now for 15 years, 20 years of supply chain experience prior to that. I spend most of my time helping organizations either implement or improve integrated business planning or S&OP, integrated tactical planning or sales and operations execution, everything really from strategy right down to shop floor execution. Really looking forward to some great discussion today, and thanks, Max, for the invitation.
You're welcome. Okay, we have also Hung joining us. Welcome. Go ahead, yeah.
Hi everyone. This is Hong here from the Estee Lauder companies. I've been with the company for about 12 years, and before that, I was with P&G, both UK and Singapore, in various roles. Really, is a pleasure to be here with everyone.
Okay, great. Fantastic. We have also Sanjeev, who is right now struggling with his camera. Sanjeev, can you unmute yourself at least? And so you can then introduce yourself if it's possible. Otherwise, we'll get you to introduce yourself when you are okay with your webcam. Sanjeev, can you hear me and can you unmute? No. Okay. So it looks like he has some technical issue. He was with us earlier, so no worries. He will come back. So as I said earlier, if you have any questions on supply chain planning or demand forecasting, feel free again to ask your questions using the Q&A button located at the bottom right of the screen. We will again prioritize those questions, so we will take them as they come. So hopefully we have a nice interactive discussion. So maybe I'll get started with our own topics. And I would like maybe to get started with some of the topics related to, and ask you a very, direct questions. And how do you, because that was brought to us by Sanjeev, also in preparation of this event. How do you think, you balance agility and efficiency when facing market volatility or disruptions, and what measure can be implemented to increase resilience in supply chain? So anybody would like to start?
I'll take a stab, Max, and I'll try to give you context. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll try to take a stab. I think post-pandemic, I think resiliency has being a resilient supply chain has become one of the key criteria. I have seen some of the supply chain, or in some segments, people start doing some kind of stress test to their supply chain. This stress test is to just see that if things go completely wrong, how should we uh, service our customer, keep our inventory levels down, yet have the right cost pattern. In this, I think technologies has helped a lot. I think I see digital twin is being implemented in some of the regions as well, within Shell as well as Cell Lubricant as I speak. But the question when you mentioned agility versus resiliency, agility versus efficiency, I think it's a balance which we usually make depending on the business objective. And here is again, I'll not paint the picture in a single brush. Rather say that uh, we need to segment our customer and we have to choose where agility is paying off more, or where efficiency is paying us more, and depending on what pays us more in terms of shareholders or customer return, we usually choose that. So it's not a single answer, but this is how we usually take decision in Shell.
Okay, great. All right, Sanjeev is back, so I'm going to give him a chance to introduce himself. And Sanjeev, we are starting with your question also on agility versus efficiency in market volatility. So maybe you can answer that as well after your introduction. Go ahead, Sanjeev.
Sure. So, hi everyone, and my apologies for the technical glitch. My name is Sanjeev Setia. I'm based out of India. I have over 30 years of experience in supply chain. I've worked in almost all domains of supply chain. I've worked with organizations like Heinz and Mondelez in the past. I currently am more of an independent supply chain consultant and happy to be a part of this August gathering, learning from each other.
Okay. And on the question, so we are starting to talk about that first question, Sanjeev, that you brought up about the agility versus efficiency. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah.
Okay, so I think before we get into agility versus efficiency, let's try to understand what agility means. So, agility in the recent terms, as I think Ashish also pointed out, post COVID, it's the ability of an organization to respond to the changing, ever changing market scenarios, and how soon supply chain is able to evolve back, jump back to the business as usual. So, this, in my sense, is the definition of agility. Now, if you look at some of the levers which impact agility, I think it is diversification. So we can diversify some of our suppliers, some of our operations to ensure that we are not dependent on one particular region or one particular source. So multiple suppliers can kind of help mitigate this risk of disruptions for us. So be it a geopolitical event or any natural disaster. So that's what it can take care of. I think some other things like digitization, real time data, these can be a big enablers in terms of how do we manage this agility. The better we are prepared in terms of getting this information ahead of time or on time, it kind of enables us to respond back quickly, making it more effective for us. In terms of lever, I think third lever, if you look at it from a perspective of agility, would be inventory. So if we have some inventory buffers, I understand inventory we'll have to balance between inventory and working capital cost for us, but having some bit of inventory which can be kind of worked out more scientifically to ensure that we are able to manage any short-term mitigations with respect to disruptions which we might have. The other lever from agility perspective can also be with respect to the flexible production capabilities. So that really indicates how soon can the manufacturing respond back to the changes in the demand for us. How soon can the manufacturing change over the lines, change over the SKUs, which kind of enables a very good business output as well. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, maybe last bit which I would add is the collaboration part of it. So I think the more we are able to collaborate, communicate openly with our stakeholders, I think that also helps us to mitigate such things for us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Okay, Hong?
The only thing I would add is typically, when this question is asked, organizations tend to focus on the physical, aspect of the agility and efficiency. One of the things that comes to mind is, how do we strengthen the financial resilience as part of the solve, right? Meaning, the robustness of the financial planning. Do we have a contingency fund view, in place in order to kind of prepare for the unexpected event, which we know can and will happen. Risk management and how do we go about implementing that when as and when it happens. So that would be the only additional angle I would say. Typically, I think team have covered customer relationships and all the aspect of segmentations in terms of cost benefits.
Okay, Lena or Stuart?
Lena, you go.
Okay, I was just trying to, what Sanjeev and Hang shared, it brought me to think of with digitalization, hopefully we can also develop capabilities of scenario planning because so that we can develop different response plans to cater to different scenarios, to react to the different global events that is happening. And yeah.
Okay, Stuart?
Well, yeah, to build on that, Lena, I think everyone's used the word respond. And our definition of respond means we have to have a plan. If we have no plan, then we react. And reacting can be exciting, but it's usually costly. So I like my excitement to come from somewhere different. So if we can respond, so scenario plans, and one of the traps I see organisations, certainly people we work with, fall into, what do you plan for? And our guidance is we'll plan for the things that will have the biggest impact on your business and your business performance. We can't plan for everything. So understand where the risk is in the supply chain. Understand where you have single source supply, because then you've got a big risk. How do we mitigate that? But really think about planning for uncertain future. That's how you become truly agile.
Okay, let me stay with you, Stuart, and let's move on to the next question. How can companies use sales and operation planning, S&OP, to make faster and better decisions, especially when they can't wait for a full monthly cycle?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So I see a lot in the on LinkedIn, people saying, well, S&OP doesn't work because we need to make decisions faster. S&OP, don't know what you call it, S&OP or IBP, it's an aggregate level monthly cadence process. It's not designed to make decisions faster than in the monthly cycle. So you can't run a business just with S&OP alone. You need to come down a level and look at a weekly or a daily cadence, sales and operations execution or integrated tactical planning that complements the S&OP. The other call out I make is that I hear lots of people saying, I have to make decisions faster. Actually, we need to make decisions at the right time. And what I see with many of my clients is their focus in their S&OP process is too short. So every decision has to be made now. The benefit of S&OP is to push the planning horizon further out. So we see issues early and we've got time to scenario plan, come up with a plan B, plan C, whatever. We understand where the decision point falls for us to make the most cost-effective decision for the organization. So two things. One is don't try and use S&OP for something that's not designed for. You need S&OE or integrated tactical planning. And two, if you can push your planning horizon further out, get really clear on when the decision should be made. And then you've got time to come up with the best decision.
Yeah. Anybody would like to comment on this? Do you guys agree with this?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is, typically as kind of organization evolve, and it depends on the maturity, of the organization. Every single company, in different industries will have different kind of requirements and level of maturity. But the one thing that I've seen is kind of consistent is the confusion between the planning horizon, and I think Stuart, you mentioned it, versus today, tomorrow, right? Which is what we need to execute in order to deliver the overall plan. So that's one. The second one is we just get really clear in terms of the critical KPIs that will enable the decision making, right? And that will basically drive what kind of decisions need to be made by when, and that complements to not just about acceleration of decision making process, but about making sure that the decision is being made organically throughout the process, in a way that enable the most effective and the right decisions for the corporations.
Okay, Sanjeev.
So I think very good points made by both Stuart as well as Han. And I think, as they rightly called out, maturity of the S&OP process, that's something which has to be kept in mind. And also, I think, as Stuart called out, we need to have S&OE coupled with S&OP, because S&OP, if you look at, would cover a horizon starting from, say, month 1 to, say, month 18, depending on the maturity of the process. Whereas S&OE, for that matter of fact, would work between 0 to 28 days, which is the immediate period. And any changes within those periods, how they can be flagged out on time, ahead of time, so that changes which are necessary to enable the business, they're taken on time, which kind of enables and pushes the business forward for us.
Okay, great. So we have actually a question which might relate to what we are talking about now. So let me put this on screen. Someone is asking, what do you think are the critical factors for a successful S&OP implementation, and why sometimes they don't work well? Maybe the factors which make the S&OP inefficient. Anybody would like to respond to this?
I'm pretty sure that Stuart will have a lot of experience in this space, but through my personal kind of leading the S&OP transformations both in P&G and in Estee Lauder companies, the one thing that comes to mind would be the level of leadership support, right? Like truly support, not just lip service. To say that, this is the right thing to do, right? To what level of support, like true leadership support that you have within the organization across all functions, and then it will kind of cascade down So that would be the one thing that come to mind. There are many other factors, and the reason why S&OP, actually there's a very high stat. I think if I remember correctly from Gartner research, right? Most of the company who implement S&OP will fail, and the failure simply because the commitment to the process is not there, right? Everyone wants to see results immediately, right now, today. If the program is deployed yesterday, and that kind of both the leadership support and the desire to get result tomorrow becomes a challenge for some of those corporations who are not really investing in and looking for long-term, more sustainable solution to manage the business.
Interesting, yeah. Ashish, I know you wanted to react, but I'll bring you Stuart after. Yeah, no worries. Go ahead, Ashish.
Yeah, I think absolutely agree what Hung said, and just bringing back to the previous question as well, and responding to why they don't work. And to be honest, I'm a live example of implementing it, and it did work. So I think one most important factor I felt is that people focus too much on S&OP, and that is what I think Sanjeev and Stuart were also talking about. Nobody was focusing on S&OE, or in terms of in some places they call weekly planning or something like that. So what happens is both the process are disconnected. Logically, the purpose of S&OP, what we believed, what I believe is to create those guardrails. And the purpose of S&OE is that while using those guardrails, identify those exceptions and give the feedback back to S&OP so that they can again tweak their guardrails. This feedback loop is missing. This entire circle is missing. The moment it is missing, what will happen is that the S&OP organization will always tell that we have created the right demand plan, wide supply plan, but it is a plan. But in reality, things can happen completely differently. And as a result, when the execution happens at a very small level, that I don't have pallets, I suddenly have the mix has changed. So because of that, what happens is that S&OP doesn't get the right value, and people start. And because most of the times you will see from our sales folk, they have an immediate agenda to ensure that we have the sales in this month or next month. So while the sales is focusing on execution, S&OP is focusing on a mid-term to long-term plus short-term as well. This is dislinked, and this is what I know. Summary, what I believe is that why they fail is that we spend maybe I think 70% energy on S&OP, 30% energy on on S&OE, and we spend zero energy in interlinking these processes.
Interesting. Yes, Stuart, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Ashish. I completely agree. I mean, I say, look, IBPs or S&OPs are a waste of time if you don't execute the plan. So whatever you call your detailed planning process, your weekly plan cadence, you have to link back to when you replan and things happen. But are we still going to deliver on the S&OP plan? If we're not, we need to put our hand up and give that early warning to the leadership team. To Hung's comment, yeah, it's leadership is the number one reason why S&OP implementations fail. And I take it further, it's actually the leadership playing their role in the process. So it's not something you give to middle management and then as a leader just forget. They need to, different leaders chair the different steps in the S&OP process. They need to model the behaviors because our people do what we do rather than what we say. So, those are the process is relatively simple, right? It's not rocket science. What makes it hard is the people side. So getting that behavior piece right is what we see time and time again with our clients.
Interesting. Lena?
Yeah, actually, I totally agree with all what the panelists have said. Just to add on, in my current company, I'm also trying to implement the S&OP process, and I fully agree that the top leadership support is very important to make this work. On top of that, what I think is also needed is the education to the middle management, because what I have is the top leaders may have come from other backgrounds, which they've seen how S&OP process is run, but the middle management has been not very experienced, and they have been focusing on operation for so long that they have never looked anything beyond 3 months. So even though the top leadership fully supports the process, the middle management, it takes some effort for the middle management to really visualize how the process can achieve. Yeah, so this is something that I also think is very important.
Okay, great. All right, so we're starting to have a number of questions coming in. So let me get them and publish them one by one on screen so you guys can see it. Let me take this one maybe. What are the best KPIs to measure and demonstrate successful S&OP? Example, improve forecast accuracy against the last 1 month rolling forecast. So what do you think are the best KPIs? Yeah, Hung, go ahead. Yeah.
Like my personal journey has been absolutely the hard KPIs, which is forecast accuracy, service, inventory, right? All of these are hard KPIs. The challenge is you're not going to see immediate improvement when you do the deployment, right? Because it's a change management process. So you have to, like in between, I think you have to set up other softer KPIs to basically recognize the journey in order to continue to basically encourage the team to either a change in the ways of working, mindsets or behavior, right? Because a lot of these are about kind of mindset change, right? Paradigm shift versus what teams are used to do today in the current organization that you're in. So I would say that from a planning standpoint, the KPIs are actually the hard target that you're going to get, because you're going to absolutely have to deliver the growth, the profitabilities, right, through improved KPIs, right? Ultimately it's going to come down to service cash costs, right? Delivering, higher growth and more sustainable, more profitable growth. But I would say, like, implement that together with your kind of check steps in between, because you're not going to see that improvement immediately on day one.
Okay, thank you. Sanjeev?
So I think from a KPI perspective, we'll have to break them down into two parts. So what is the leading indicator and what is the lagging indicator? And I think these are the things which we should kind of incorporate into the ways of working for us. Number one. Number two also should be, we definitely should look at what's the kind of demand variability or a supply variability which is happening from an execution perspective. And I think that is when you do a root cause analysis for that, then that should go as an input to your next cycle for S&OP. That's how, in my sense, we'll be able to keep improving and improvising the process for us.
Okay, thank you. Ashish?
Yeah, maybe a quick addition. And when you talk about S&OP process and KPIs, and I have seen multiple times people focusing on the impact KPIs. I usually call them outcome KPIs, like I think Sanjeev also said, and I think Stuart has said that what is going to happen to my inventory targets, my forecast accuracy, my sales, my revenue, the way we look at. I think another angle when you say process, right? Process, we also have to start looking from the angle of behavior KPIs, right? So process is also, if you don't do a good process, the outcome will never be achieved. So when I say behavior KPIs, is very simple stuffs like, how many actions completed so far. Behavior KPIs is what is the attendance of the people joining this, demand review meeting. KPIs that what is the how the portfolio team is giving the right kind of inputs. These are behavior KPIs that if you don't keep a control on that, your process will not give the right outcome. So we also have to focus on the behavior KPIs as well.
Okay. All good points. All right, so let me take the next question. Maybe I'll take this question here from this question from Sachin. What should be the ideal organization structure for a successful S&OP implementation across region? Stuart?
So I think the quick answer is it depends on your organizational structure. So some rules of thumb are you have an S&OP meeting where functionally there's a decision maker. So we often see organizations attempting to implement a 5-step S&OP process in a country that just sells things. They don't need a supply review. And actually, they might have a portfolio being driven from a regional level, but someone thinks they must go through all 5 steps. So it's really structuring the design around where decisions are made and how information needs to flow with my simple guidance.
Okay. Anybody else would like to comment on this?
Yeah, maybe Max, I'll give few examples. Having done S&OP implementation in India, Asia Pacific, and then globally. I think a couple of pointers. Absolutely agree with Stuart. Best start is what I haven't learned so far is that see your organizational design. That gives you a first indicator that how your S&OP should be. Second is that also understand how is the centralization or decentralization of you can say decision making. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. Is that in global lubricants, or more than 80 to or 80% of the value is around raw materials based on a narrative, and that's why we wanted to keep it centralized globally. So the decision making is happening at a global level. So, but the sales were happening at a regional level. So we created a global S&OP structure, which is linked to the regional S&OP structure. So I think to summarize the pointers, see your organizational design. As Stuart said, see the decision making in the organizational design, and also see how centralization and digitalization of decision is taken based on the impact factor, and then accordingly decide what is the right S&OP design. There's no single answer. That's what I've understood so far.
That's right. Just to make it, more vivid, right? Within the company, we have both brands and market ownership. So right now, for example, within the current context, and I can contrast that versus, a P&G context, right? The P&G model would be brands led, region led, and then market follow. So that would be one model that you have in the current context for where I'm at is affiliate led and brand enabled. So what that means is in the current IBP process, the decision and the plan submission is actually coming from the respective market across brands, right? So that's just to make it a little bit more vivid for the team to appreciate. But obviously, that's not true for the all the different industries and companies that you have. So really go back to what is your organization structure design, where are the key decision points, right, in that organization design, and then you can complement the IBP S&OP process to support.
Okay. All right, that's good. We have more questions coming in, so let me bring the next one. This is a question from Clifford. Is asking, if S&OP is so difficult, complex to implement, is there a next best alternative practice or process that's easier to implement for organization to consider? Anyone would like to answer or respond to this? Is there anything else that companies should consider? Hong, yeah.
For me, in my mind, I think it's about kind of painting out the maturity level, right? It is actually the same as an OP or IBP process, but basically just set the expectation of within the next year, 2 years, this is what we as an organization will be doing, right? And then work towards that. And I think it's a function of the compelling business needs, right? So if the company is in a dire in crisis, we need to deliver result quickly, urgently. That will kind of force the corporation to be a lot more aggressive compared to if things are going well, company's growing, market you're gaining shares. So it depends, right? So you can paint the kind of you can create a roadmap which is more suitable for the companies and industry that you're in. But it is ultimately, S&OP is a way of doing business. So I would think of it as a business process. Then the traditional kind of demand supply balancing act, right? Which will remove the need for the question, if S&OP is too difficult, why do we need to do it? Because it is a way of running the business.
Okay, interesting. Anybody else would like to comment on this?
Maybe a straight single line. If there's no organization where the leaderships are not meeting, sales are not meeting, demand planners are not meeting. So my only suggestion is don't get stick to the term S&OP. Yeah. There is something management review happening. S&OP is not a very new thing, right? It's a management review of how things are, how demand is coming, how we'll create the supply, how portfolios, and then finally to the executive decision. So my only suggestion will be is that if organization is too wary of the word S&OP, drop it.
Yes.
Explain in the language in which people understand. Call it management review. Call it monthly review, something like that. That also helps sometime.
You're right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I think I'll add to what Ashish said. So it's absolutely right. So what is S&OP? It is the same way you're doing business, but it is more of a structured way of what you do and how you do, what you measure and how you measure. So I think if you get that structure into the ways of working, that obviously helps the business not only from a short-term perspective but from a long-term perspective as well. And that's where the implementation of S&OP has helped the organization. So, and that's something which people need to be wary of, that yes, this is something which I am investing in today, which will reap results, which will make it easier for the business to run in the times to come for them.
Good point. Yes, Stuart?
I think we talked about the short-term tactical horizon, so S&OE, or integrated tactical planning. That's often a place to start because it's a weekly cycle. You can move up the experience curve far faster than with the monthly. So if you think about it, in 3 months you can do 12 cycles of S&OE or ITP, whereas it takes you a full year to do 12 cycles of IBP. And it's both processes are about effective communication between the different functions and effective replanning to come out with a best for business outcome. The time fences are different, the level of flexibility is different, but the principles are there. So we work with a lot of clients where we get called in to have a look at the S&OP process, and we decide the first thing we'll do is get that base of the short term in. Ideally you need 2, but you can get pretty far pretty quickly with S&OE or ITP.
Interesting. Lena, what's your follow-up of this?
Yeah, I just want to add on a little bit also based on my personal experience. So from my past experience, I've seen companies, for example, my current one, they have already the S&OE process, which they do the weekly review. And they also have their monthly business review, which is more focusing on backward looking. And they also have their quarterly budget or yearly budget setting, and also the more 5-year planning, which is also done yearly basis. So if you look back your own company, probably you already have some form of long-term forward-looking certain meetings that is covering this, but it's not maybe to the extent of doing a monthly S&OP. So S&OP is just to put things a bit more systematically, and also tying back to the maturity and the readiness of the organization to make the organization a bit more robust towards changes, long-term changes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Keep going. Keep posting questions if you have any. We still have some time. So let me move on to the next one. We wanted to actually cover this, so I'm glad we have a question here. So this is about AI, of course. So someone is asking, where do you think AI will have the most impact on supply chain planning? Is the technology mature? Good question. Anybody would like to answer this? Impact of AI. And are we ready with it? Sanjeev, Hong?
Okay.
Yeah, I can take it. Go ahead.
Go on, Han. Go on.
Okay, I can take a crack at this. I think there's a little bit of confusion here, right? For the longest time, I think we have AI as part of the tool set from a supply chain planning standpoint for many years, in terms of forecasts, machine learning, AI forecasts, so on and so forth. What would be new and truly innovative is the ability to basically kind of explainable AI, because today one of the challenge that we have as an organization is when we have a statistical forecast, we're not able to kind of explain why the forecast is the way it is, right? And be able to communicate and collaborate that with either sales team, marketing team, so on and so forth. So the ability for us, and this is where Gen AI comes in, right? Which is the new last year and a half or 2 years that we get into this large language model with Gen AI. So combining the AI machine learning with the explainable AI, which is where I truly believe where the industry is kind of moving into, that's going to be a breakthrough for us to be able to say, yeah, this is the way it is because of XYZ, right? Promotion effectiveness not working, innovation or distribution. It's statistically speaking, it's going to be X instead of our current plan of Y, and that becomes the true business planning decision that we need to make.
Is this mature already for you, Hong? Are you using it already?
No. Right now we're in the process of kind of collaborating with actually with the Singapore government to see how we can actually get to the explainable AI, right? So that's kind of part of the journey that we're trying to get to.
Okay, interesting. Sanjeev, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so I think very rightly pointed out by Hung as well. So technology, if you look at, is helping in terms of, I mean, say specific areas of say demand planning for us. So we can now kind of work on X number of variables, which was kind of not possible to do it manually if somebody was trying to do it in say a tool like Excel. With the technology in place, you can have n number of multiples, n number of factors. You can do a bottom up thing from a region to a city to a town to a shop as well, which practically was not possible when they were trying to do it through Excel as a solution for them. But with this technology, this definitely is helping. I would say it is still not mature; it is evolving, but we see good signs of that, and we see that this will become more effective in the times to come for us. That's number one. Number two, apart from demand forecasting, which is more of modeling, I think what will also help is and is helping is the demand sensing part of it. So while we forecasted demand for a particular period for us, how is that shaping up? What are the variables which are impacting the demand? And this can be done real time. I'll give you an example. So maybe for some of the seasonal product which are dependent on say monsoon or rainfall or maybe the sun gods. So we can predict what's going to be the temperature, what's going to be the rainfall in the times to come. And this can be kind of inbuilt into the demand sensing platform, which kind of predicts, yes, while you forecasted X, but based on the current signals which we are getting, this is going to be muted or this is going to be over and above the forecast which you shared. So these are the signals which can then be reaped back into the planning horizon, and execution can be tweaked accordingly to manage the demand for us.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. Lena, Ashish, Stuart, what's your take on AI? Yeah.
So in my experience, I'm mainly using statistical forecasting for demand forecast, but I also see a limitation based on which industry you're targeting. So for example, in my previous experience, I have done statistical forecasting for automotive, which is more stable. So as a result, the demand is more accurate compared to consumer market, which the consumers is very highly volatile and hard to predict, and therefore it works for a limited extent. And I think the other aspect is how big is your company in the market you're targeting. So if you are a big player, you can influence the market more, then you can actually use the statistical forecasting or consumer behavior or a seasonality more easily. But if you're a small player that can be easily affected by other big players, and then you can't predict what other big players will do, then I think even statistical forecasting will work for a limited extent.
Okay, thank you. Ashish?
No, I agree absolutely, Lena. And having implemented one of the big digitalization project in globally, and I agree with Sanjeev as well. Demand planning is limited in capability because of a statistical forecasting model, and hence demand sensing is one of the key, you can say, segment which is growing a lot. But before coming to that, I agree with Lena that first question yourself: is it really required? Um Demand sensing, if your mix is changing within a very short term, maybe demand sensing is required. But sometimes you have to also see that whether your lead times are enough to respond to that demand sensing, as there is no point of investing in demand sensing technology when you're unable to service your customers. So I think those few elements need to be rightly checked, because when we implemented demand planning and went for demand sensing, we questioned ourselves that is our mix changing in a short term very much, and if it is changing, can we take, and as Stuart initially started, respond and react? Can we respond? If we can respond, yes, we invest. If we can't respond, there's no point of investing. Another question is that is AI relevant? I think AI was earlier as well. I think maybe Gen A, people are confusing with AI and other terms, but AI was there earlier. It was there, big data, and AI was being used. Today, even AI is being used by simpler softwares as well. The question is, and I am pretty confident that most of the senior leadership ask this question, is that what is the ROI of this AI investment? Don't just run behind these investments for the unless you have the right ROI in terms of financial KPIs.
And Ashish, do you use some kind of Gen AI already within your organization?
It's a inbuilt a team who is working on Gen AI on a larger cell context. Of course, we have some kind of third parties we collaborate with, but not as a very large scale. So
Okay.
in mostly in the case, not in supply chain, which I've seen, mostly in the case of marketing, where it is very useful, where we see the ROI is coming quite good.
Okay, interesting. So Stuart, so we talk about AI. What do you think? Do you think companies need AI today? Is there real impact on ROI, and is the technology ready today?
So I think I'm sort of building on what everybody said. Hung, there's such a history of people not trusting technology. It sort of reminds me of where we were 20 years ago with optimizers. Everyone had to have an optimizer according to the software companies, but most organizations weren't effectively using their ERP system. Whether we like it or not, we still need good data. And most organizations don't have the data integrity. It's something, Oliver Wight himself, and he died in 1982, he was banging the drum on data integrity, and we still see it. I think in supply chain, the opportunity is to really think through the questions we want to ask that we need answers for, and then how we're going to use those answers when when we get them from the generative AI, because that then comes down to the behavioural piece and the trust piece. And actually, it's going to expose those organizations where they don't really understand the drivers of the supply chain. They don't understand where the risks are in the supply chain. I know the guys over at SAP now, they've developed some technology that will, based on where you source from, will scrape the web to come up with news items that may indicate that there's going to be either geopolitical or a weather event that's going to create some supply chain risk for you. Well, that's a really good example. But again, I want to focus it where it's going to give me best bang for buck.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the one other thing I can think of is about, the kind of investment that the organization is willing to, invest in talent, right? Because when you're talking about AI, it's just not about, you have a black box that generates something. So there's a whole host of, talent and organization that will support, enable, and be able to basically, explain what that means to the organization. So
Okay, so I see some people raising hands. So again, if you are, I'm not going to be able to take people live as you raise your hand, but please ask your question or comment directly in the Q&A. I'll be happy to take it. I think there was another question which I forgot to take, and I would like to bring it up, which I think was interesting. Is someone is asking, can you run an S&OP on Excel? Limitation, advantages, what's next? What do you guys think? Is it possible? Or do you need to invest into the right S&OP tool and technology to support your S&OP process? Yeah.
Many of my technology friends will get unhappy with this. I think we can.
Okay. All right. Good. Harm?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, right? So you just have to understand, what is it that you're looking for? If I have a company of 10 people, running on Excel, absolutely, yes. But jokes aside, I think you just need to make the evaluation of what is it that you're looking for, right? As an outcome, but it's doable.
Okay, Sanjeev?
So I think Ashish and Hank rightly said that it is possible, and we also said what is S&OP? I mean, it's a structured way of the way we conduct the business for us. Whether we do it on Excel or we do it on a tool, it is immaterial. So the short answer is yes, it is definitely possible. So while there may be limitations with respect to integrating where the data is coming from, how soon are you able to generate the KPIs and evaluate and do the RCAs around them? So I think the S&OP as a tool will help you expedite all those things, but the basic stuff can definitely be done in Excel.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe I'd like to just continue on one point. I think, Hong, you bringing up about talents because that's something we don't talk enough when we talk about supply chain management. And I wanted to understand how difficult it is, again, within the Asia context, to find good supply chain planning talents, and what kind of skills are you looking for right now for your supply chain planning team? Yeah.
Yeah, and it has evolved as well, right? Like a true example is, this is the current integrated business planning, which is kind of the evolution of S&OP that we have in the company, and as part of the establishment of the integrated business planning in the last year and a half or so that we running this. To enable the integrated business planning, we were looking to invest in, data analytics team, right, to support, create insight, support decision making. So even in the early days, I think now is a little bit easier to get talent, but the example I kind of would refer to is in the old days, knowing Excel, knowing how to operate, pivot table, you're in, right? That's one of the key, capability or skill set that we're looking for. I mean, I'm just picking one as an example, just to bring, to make the point. But today, knowing Excel is not enough, right? The ability to basically, do, some simple coding, queries, Python and Power BI dashboards, etc. So those are kind of capabilities, and as part of the evolution, in terms of looking forward, in terms of the future of what kind of capabilities we're looking for, I think is how to get insight quickly out from vast amount of data that we cannot usually handle with a simple Excel. I think it's going to be critically important, right? But everything else becomes normalized, meaning ability to basically gain insight and translate that into action, right, in an effective way, is the norm, which is the same as before versus now. It's just how do we go about doing that? I think that's changing quite rapidly.
Okay, good analytical skills combined with technology or tech skills. Yeah. Stuart, yeah.
So I think I agree with Hung. We see the other end of that conversation being those basic skills, a basic understanding of how an ERP system works, and the roles that drive that ERP system. So material planner, distribution planner, master planner or master scheduler. That knowledge appears to have disappeared, unfortunately. So we find people saying, well, my SAP doesn't work, or Oracle doesn't work. And these systems have been around for 50 years now. They all work. If you set them up right, you know how to use them. So it's both ends. Hung's called out the analytical piece, but you've got to have the basics in place. And there's a real need just to get that foundation there. That's what we see.
Okay, interesting. Sanjeev?
So I think, as rightly pointed out by Hung and Stuart, so we need to upskill the teams. We need to upskill the people to ensure that they stay relevant to the technology which is need of the hour for us. So it is not that the roles are disappearing; it is that the roles are changing, the requirements are changing, and hence the need for upskilling definitely has to be there. We need to constantly be behind the technology in terms of what we can do and how we can do. So if we are able to kind of work on that, that should be a good win for us.
Okay, Ashish, Lena, your final thought about on supply chain planning talents, yeah, and the skills needed.
I think apart from working on technology and understanding, having the right capability to understand and use new technologies, it is very important that while hiring, we look for talents who have T-shaped capability. When I say T-shaped capability, is that if there is a demand planner, he must have understanding what does inventory does. He must have an understanding what is production does, what is over equipment effectiveness. So a basic understanding on a higher level that overall supply chain need to be there from the context of I'll say skill or knowledge, but he should be an SME in a single segment. So that is one I'll say a T-shaped capability is one of the high requirement I believe right now, because at the end of the day it is all about chain, right? So end-to-end supply chain can only work that way.
Yeah, Lena.
So I was just thinking, when the supply chain evolves and system plays a bigger and bigger role inside our planning, the talents needs to move from data generation to data analyzing. This is one part, and I was just thinking on specifically on S&OP piece. Besides analyzing data, when you are leading or managing the S&OP process, you also need to pick out the numbers and relate it to business sense and translate that to the management so that it can be something that can generate actions and improve your profit. So specifically to S&OP department, I think it requires a bit more different skill set.
All right, with that, thank you very much again for being today. Thanks, Lena, Ashish, Stuart, Hung, Sanjeev, for joining us, sharing your insight. I think it was a great discussion. As always, we didn't get to cover all the topics, but that's fine. We will do another follow-up discussion on supply chain planning and demand forecasting. I want to thank the audience for asking all those great questions, as always, and we look forward again to see you next time. So thanks again for being with us. Thanks for attending the supply chain planning forum, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks everyone.
Everybody.